Dystopia warning, obviously. Now, I was supposed to be talking about the sovereign individual, market shorting, the links to Bannon, Brexit, etc. today, but instead I'm forced to actually correct my own bad take. I took a look at things and I thought, do you know what? I've cracked it. I saw a shadily funded, many times bankrupted game show host with a cabinet of billionaires and just kind of thought, well, this is just like Liz Truss and Brexit. You know, it's an obvious shorting exercise in which the rich are going to get massively richer and the poor are just going to have to pay for it all via austerity, right? But I don't think that's right. I mean, I am exceedingly concerned that the leaders of nations are deliberately tanking their economies in order to appease the super rich, which does in itself lend to the theories that are discussed in the book on disaster capitalism that Jacob Rees-Mogg's dad wrote. A book that was actually ahead of its time in many ways, whilst also being chilling and terrifying. The book predicted that technology would make the world more unstable and unequal. It also predicted the emergence of super rich people with the influence of governments, and that the left behinds would turn to bitter nostalgia, would want to stop the freedom of movement and capital across borders and turn to nationalism. And whilst it feels like people using this as a handbook, and have been since the Brexit era, I mean, some of the philosophies that influence Bannon and Teal are terrifying, and many of the tech bros don't believe that democracy has a future, so they're planning for it with their compounds and their bunkers, whilst trying to kind of instigate some kind of technocracy or, you know, techno-feudal, ultra-dystopian future. But taking all of that into account, I don't think that what's happening with Trump and the tariffs is straightforward, like hardcore insider trading after all. I thought it was simple disaster capitalism, but in reality it's just a disaster caused by a simpleton, because there's not much evidence of people, you know, buying up stock or dumping it prior to these announcements. And in addition to that, the markets are frankly as your mum after 4 cocktails. Some of the losses have been point and laugh funny, for me personally anyway. Notably Apple losing $300 billion, despite their chief executive Tim Cook turning up at the inauguration and attempting to suck up to Trump. Then going on to face its biggest one-day valuation wipeout on record, because Trump decided to target the countries where it's got its biggest manufacturing and supplier hubs. Now Cook is going, you know, full, well, I didn't think the leopards would eat my face, as everybody else points and laughs because no one gives a shit about the billionaires. And then there's Elon Musk and the Broverlords. At my last count, Musk faced 11 billion in losses. This headline here says he wasn't even the biggest loser, but Musk is always the biggest loser in any room that he enters. The man's a bizarre edgelord that with every single passing day more closely resembles an oddly shaped and poorly cooked rotisserie chicken. Little known fact about Elon Musk, he's actually part penguin. It's a secret that's been kept under wraps for some time now. And that, along with rumours that he's stepping back from Doge, or Dodgy, as I like to call it, makes things pretty awkward for Musk, you know, because of his heritage. He's going to have to make a choice. You know, what with Trump's tariffs hitting islands inhabited only by penguins, such as Heard Island and the McDonald Islands. Does he continue to support the out-of-control, bronzed-up pant-shitter, or stand with his penguin ancestors as they go full Batman Returns? Oh, if Musk was involved, it'd be more like Twatman Returns, wouldn't it? The sequel nobody wants to see. I feel a bit bad for equating, you know, penguins and Musk. Not least because penguins are actually good dads, and they're not known for using their own young as human shields. Anyway, I appear to have gone a bit off topic there. Now, all this is being marketed by people that aren't sitting there going, as a kind of like protectionist strategy, a thoroughly isolationist strategy, a thoroughly mental strategy. Because it's making the US extremely vulnerable, destroying its reputation globally, possibly forever. Global trade is a big part of how the US has its status. It's essentially a why are you punching yourself in the face scenario. And then you've got the MAGA cult. You know, there's a number of them have turned on him openly. But there are still people that are acting like, if you're like, what the hell is going on? They're like, oh, why do you love Wall Street so much? Like, God, if you love Wall Street so much, why don't you marry it? What these hapless goits need to realise is Wall Street tanking doesn't just affect those with yachts. No, it causes an out-of-control domino effect. Companies lose value. They lay off employees to kind of cut corners and survive. Those that keep their jobs end up with terrible wages and no bonuses. Supply chain costs cause things that you would normally buy to skyrocket in price. So with your lower wages, you can't actually even afford the things you need. The hospitality industry tanks because no one can afford to go out. Rents increase even further. Groceries skyrocket, pension funds disintegrate. Explaining basic concepts to MAGA clowns is like trying to teach a goose the times table. I thought the MAGA lot didn't like communists. Meanwhile, they're essentially bringing down capitalism and giving even more power to China. I mean, the billions in losses aren't going to hit billionaires because they're already billionaires. But the regular people will not only feel it, but have to pay for it all. And meanwhile, what's Trump doing? What's he doing as the Wall Street Journal is essentially saying, fuck? He's playing golf. Yeah, he's buggered off to have some leisure time. He's been talking to the press, pictured here, with his trousers round his nipples, with all the mental coherence of a confused, lost grandad that makes the evening news after going missing in a park. I mean, his work's done, isn't it? Just a shame that no one can figure out what the point of any of it is. There is something that I think I was right about, though, in my previous video. I mean, there is still a chance for this to turn out to be some kind of shorting exercise, but at the moment the evidence doesn't stack up for it. But the thing that I think I'm right about is the fact that this probably won't dent a lot of his support. He will still benefit from the chaos. Those that are already rich will retain their riches for the most part. And I think he'll benefit from the disorder. There is actually an interesting quote at the beginning of this book. Remember, this was written in the 90s. And the quote that prefaces the book is by Tom Stoppard. Simply says, "The future is disorder." I don't know if that thing there is manufacturing the disorder, if he's mental, thick, or mental and thick. But the interesting thing to watch out for is whether or not the MAGA lot turn on him as the obvious cause of everything. I think there's a good chance they'll double down on the racism, the hatred, the conspiracy, because, sunk cost fallacy. He's their cunty orange Charles Manson. And if any of them responded to sense, they wouldn't have voted for him in the first place, would they? The only kind of tangible thought about the disorder that comes as a consequence of this that I can think would benefit them and, the broverlords, the broligarchy, is that poorer, more desperate people are more susceptible to propaganda and the alt-right. I mean, we're seeing that play out here in Britain with reform. Working class people that used to have self-respect, some of them are turning to Farage and believing the bull. Because people stop believing facts when they follow a populist cult figure. I mean, the economy was in great shape when Trump inherited it. Low unemployment, good growth. Trump has caused Wall Street to lose trillions in a day. And that's what happens when you believe rhetoric over objective fact. But yeah, I hope the MAGA lot, when they're forced to live off roadkill and cheap noodles, remember to say thank you. Yeah, in short, I thought I'd cracked it. I thought this was just disaster capitalism 101, because of what came before, because of what's happened in Britain. Turns out it's just stupid enough to tank his own country's reputation and economic prosperity for possibly forever, under the illusion the rest of the world will just give them money. It's like organising a bank heist armed only with an overripe banana. What happens next? Nobody knows. Because that's what happens when you elect, inexplicably, failed businessman. Looks like a washed up Pat Butcher as President of the US. Well done, dickheads.